The Legend of Zelda is one of the longest running franchises in gaming history, and because of that, it has gone through many different changes over the almost 40 years it's been around. Some changes big and others small. In this video, I want to discuss how this franchise has evolved and where it might go in years to come. This is the future of The Legend of Zelda. Before we get into the future of this series, let's first talk about where it all began. The Legend of Zelda, released in 1986 by Nintendo, was groundbreaking for game design, especially at the time. It was one of, if not the first open-world game where you could really just go and do whatever you wanted. This openness was inspired by game director Shigeru Miyamoto's childhood experiences of exploring the woods, fields, and caves around Kyoto. Quote, "When I was a child, I went hiking and found a lake. It was quite a surprise for me to stumble upon it. When I traveled around the country without a map, trying to find my way, stumbling on amazing things as I went, I realized how it felt to go on an adventure like this." End quote. This game also gives us the amazing Zelda main theme written by Koji Kondo. The story is explained by a title crawl after you press start that gives you a basic rundown of the game's plot. In long, an evil Prince Ganon stole the Triforce of Power, and Zelda, attempting to make it harder for Ganon to steal her Triforce, split it into 8 different pieces that you, Link, now have to go and find in order to save the princess and the kingdom. Now, it really doesn't elaborate at all about what the Triforce is or anything, but I mean, what do you expect from a game running on a console that has 2 kilobytes of memory? That's around 4 million times less memory than your phone has. Now, the instruction booklet that comes with the game does elaborate a little more, but I mean, come on, who wants to read books? Ugh. The actual gameplay, like I talked about before, is very open. You can go wherever you want, discover dungeons, and get new tools and weapons. It's all very impressive for such an old game. The Legend of Zelda was very influential for the future of gaming. It has paved the way for almost every action-adventure and open-world game released since. Speaking of influential, The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time is often regarded as the greatest video game ever made, and one of, if not the, most influential in how games are made today. Ocarina of Time was the first Zelda game with 3D graphics, which was made possible by the power of the N64. It also gave us the classic Zelda formula that Zelda games would follow for the next nearly 20 years. The Zelda formula that I mentioned is basically little boy gets set off on a big adventure to save the world. He finds a dungeon, gets a new item in that dungeon, uses that item to beat the dungeon, then he does that about 4 to 7 times, gets the Master Sword, and save the world. Whew. Yeah, okay, that about covers it. Ocarina of Time was revolutionary for 3D gaming in one big way: Z-targeting. Little known fact, Miyamoto had initially planned for the game to be played in first person, but he thought it would have been nice to see all of Link's cool sword moves, so he abandoned that and switched it to third person. Z-targeting was so revolutionary because previous games' camera controls were very clunky and hard to control because, you know, you couldn't lock onto anything. The Zelda team made a way to focus the camera on an enemy or object so that Link would be facing that enemy or object and ready to attack. This made combat much simpler and easier, and the idea was taken by many different games to come. For example, Dark Souls. Another aspect of Ocarina of Time that has influenced many different games is real-time cutscenes. We see these in nearly every game out nowadays. During the development, Yoshiaki Koizumi pushed for in-engine real-time cutscenes because the N64 actually was worse at playing back video, so they had to create a way to allow for dynamic camera work and custom animations in-game. Well, they did it, and now every game does it thanks to them. Koji Kondo is yet again in charge of the soundtrack, which has some of, if not the most recognizable songs ever, like The Lost Woods, Temple of Time, the title theme, Legends theme. And best for last, Gerudo Valley. This game also introduced the importance of musical instruments in the gameplay and story of each mainline Zelda game, at least up until Breath of the Wild. I would personally include Twilight Princess because of the wolf howling, but, you know. For Ocarina of Time, the instrument is, the Ocarina of Time. For Wind Waker, it's, the Wind Waker. You know, I'm starting to notice a pattern. Scratch that, Twilight Princess. It has a neat mechanic where, as Wolf Link, you can go to Howling Stones scattered throughout the map and howl different songs from the other Zelda games. Finally, in Skyward Sword, you have the Goddess Harp, which you get from Zelda. You can play it during certain scenarios to progress the story, like when you play the Ballad of the Goddess or Song of the Hero. Dang, there's a lot of music in these games. And it's all really freaking good. But anyway, back to Ocarina of Time. This game was such a pivotal moment in gaming history. I'm sure any game that came after it, you can at least trace it back to it in some way. Alright, that's enough of the past. Let's see where we're at in the present before we head to the future. Where do I even begin with this game? One of the greatest games ever made. One of the most influential games ever made. Wow, Nintendo really has a crazy resume. The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild is my favorite game of all time, and it holds a very special place in my heart. But we're not here for my opinion. Alright, it's not right now. Breath of the Wild completely redefined the open world genre of video game. It's like Miyamoto saw what had happened to his amazing creation and decided to show them how it's really done. Shigeru Miyamoto said this about Breath of the Wild in an interview before the game came out. As the series progressed, there were more added features. As we started doing that, we realized that the game was becoming more and more sequential. We really wanted to go back to the original spirit of Zelda, which is freedom. In past Zelda titles, there was a tendency for NPCs to explain everything about the world. We went back to the origins of Zelda, where, as you start the game, you don't know who you are, you don't know what you're supposed to do. In this new game, as you interact with nature and the world around you, you will learn who you are. This was most likely in response to the backlash from Skyward Sword being too repetitive and too linear. Now, I personally love Skyward Sword, but you know, that doesn't matter. So, they decided to go back to the roots of the original Zelda game, where you have complete freedom and no idea what's going on, which I think they captured perfectly with Breath of the Wild. You really are just thrown into the game with no context of anything whatsoever, and it is completely optional to get the context from the old man at the start. I mean, the game directs you towards him, but you can just walk the other way. The complaints of Skyward Sword being too linear were completely thrown out the window with this. You had to tackle 4 main dungeons before you could defeat Oh, wait, never mind. You could just wind bomb right over to Ganon as soon as you stole the paraglider from the dead king of Hyrule. Breath is literally the embodiment of the saying, see that mountain over there? You can climb it. And yeah, you literally can in this game. It's insane. I haven't even talked about the story yet, which, I mean, yeah, it has one. The bulk of the story takes place 100 years ago, which you can experience through memories, but I would have preferred if it was more traditional, where you actually experience the story as you play through the game, which you do, kind of. The main event that everyone talks about happened 100 years ago, but your big goal is to free the divine beast that Ganon corrupted, and there are little storylines to go with them, so that's fine, but not great. This is something Tears of the Kingdom does a lot better in my opinion. Speaking of Tears of the Kingdom, this game is a sequel to Breath of the Wild, and I feel like it really fixes a lot of the problems I and many other people had with Breath. The main problem in my case being the story. Breath's story was very lackluster to say the least, and I'm not saying Tears' story is absolutely incredible by any means, but I'm just saying that it was definitely a sizable improvement. Tears originally started out as DLC for Breath, but during early development they kept getting more and more ideas, so they decided to make it into a whole new game. One such idea being Ultra Hand, which allows you to make any sort of contraption you could ever think of. You can tell the Zelda team's main focus for Tears was creativity. Just the sheer amount of combinations with Fuse and different things you can build with Ultra Hand is incredible. They really went above and beyond. Pun intended. Sky Islands was also a new addition to Tears that gave us exploration of the skies above Hyrule. The game actually starts off in the skies, on the Great Sky Island, which serves as the parallel to the Great Plateau from Breath. They also added the freaking depths, which was an insanely well-kept secret during production, which is literally an inverted map of the overworld, but underground. It's huge, but also pretty empty. Now, instead of the main story taking place 100 years ago, it takes place during the present, but it does still have memories. At the beginning of the game, Zelda disappears, and you have to spend the rest of the game trying to find her, which is a pretty simple concept, or would be, if Link didn't figure out where she went halfway through the story, but because he can't freaking talk, he can't tell anyone. So everyone's just clueless and wondering where she is, but Link knows. But Link, oh my god, that kind of grinds my gears. But hey, it's all right. This game is amazing. Now, onto the part of the video that discusses the title, The Future of The Legend of Zelda. The last mainline Zelda game released 2 years ago in May 2023, which is important because usually, about 2 or 3 years after the last release, the next mainline Zelda game was announced. So far, we have nothing, but this is most likely due to the release of the spin-off game, Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment. I think it might be announced within the next year or two. I mean, just based on how this franchise goes. And I would give it between 5 to 7 years after Tears of the Kingdom for a release. It took Breath of the Wild 5 years to develop, and Tears 6, so I think that's a pretty good range. As to what it will actually be about, I have no idea. I mean, no one does. Nintendo is very unpredictable when it comes to these sorts of things. From pieces of interviews we've gotten, it'll most likely not be in the Breath of the Wild world, and probably a whole new Hyrule, or an entirely different kingdom than Hyrule. I would love to see us go outside the borders for the first time since Triforce Heroes. There's so many different kingdoms in the Zelda universe they could choose from, or they could create an entirely new one. Also, it does seem more than likely that it will be open world again. I think we're probably going to be seeing a lot of these Breath of the Wild style Zelda games from here on out. But as to what I personally want, first of all, an Ocarina of Time and Twilight Princess remake. That's number one. But for the next Zelda game, I really want to go back to the kind of Twilight Princess style, you know? Back to the linear Zelda formula, and kind of dark and edgy, but also goofy. I personally think Twilight Princess has the best vibes of any Zelda game, and I would really love to see another capture that feeling. And with the power of the Switch 2, it would probably be the most realistic looking Zelda game to date, which I think would be awesome. I've always wanted to see a realistic Zelda game. This franchise means so much to me, and I'm really excited to see where it goes next. And I'm sure I'll love and play the heck out of whatever Miyamoto and Aonuma cook up. But no matter where this franchise goes, it will always be The Legend of Zelda. I hope you enjoyed that video. I enjoyed making it. It was very fun. I stayed up until 7 a.m. making this video, so I hope you enjoyed this. This is my first ever video on this channel, my first ever, like, commentary video, what's it called? Commentary, video essay. And I am in love with The Legend of Zelda, so I would love to have this channel be exclusively Legend of Zelda. I'm going to, maybe I might do a playthrough of Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment when I get it. Maybe I'll do a playthrough of Age of Imprisonment. Maybe I'll do a review of Age of Imprisonment. That's what I really want to do. I want to do a review, and maybe, yeah, a review, or maybe, yeah, or just a review. Okay, I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please subscribe. I'm trying to, you know, hey, okay, I gotta go 5 subscribers by the end of the year. Is that doable? Is that doable? I think it's doable. It's 2 weeks from when I'm recording this. I'm recording this 24th. I think that's doable. 5 subscribers by the end of the year. I'm hoping. Here's hoping. All right.